The trick is, and we libertarians know this, and this shouldn't be a secret, and it's becoming less so, the trick is to hold people accountable for what they do. And if you or I or anyone else is going to drive a motor vehicle under the influence of marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, prescription drugs, that's a crime. It puts our safety at risk. And that's the critical issue. We're really good in our criminal justice system when we have a victim, when we have a risk situation like that, of holding people accountable. And the other secret is that the problem users are going to find their way into the criminal justice system regardless. Just like with alcohol. Alcohol does not have to be illegal in order to hold people accountable for what they do. And Dusty, if you go home and drink, a quart of gin every night, I hope you don't. I hope that we can help you with drug treatment if you want it. I hope we can educate you and your family away from that sort of thing. But if all you're going to do is go to sleep tonight and wake up with a headache and not drive under the influence, not hit Mark over the head with a pool cue, then that's a medical issue that should not be punished, should not be in the criminal justice system at all.
It should be dealt with, but it should not be dealt with in a punitive, in the justice system. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely right. It's not a question of bringing you into the criminal justice system. We had this very conservative assemblyman, Pat Nolan, here in the Glendale area. And I tell you, he was an arch-conservative that was voting in favor of every mandatory minimum sentence that was higher and higher. Until one fine day, he was convicted of a political corruption charge. And he ended up going to state prison for 2 years. And you know what happened? When he got out, his tune was completely changed. He said, which is true, we have many, too many people in prison that should not be there. And then he went on to say something that we all should listen to. Namely, we should reserve our prison space for people that we're afraid of, not people we're mad at.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. So your first day at office, you would pardon drug criminals?
Absolutely.
Or non-violent drug criminals?
From the inauguration platform, I would issue an unconditional pardon for every federal prisoner who's in on a non-violent drug offense, and get those people out of prison, reunite them with their families, restore their civil rights, and make room for the murderers, rapists, child molesters, and others who are getting out on early release and plea bargain because there's no room in the prisons.
So this is just the people who are only guilty of possession, not anyone who's guilty of any kind of violent crime or anything like that.
Possession, use, selling, any of those things, they would be pardoned so long as they did not commit a violent act in the process of it. But the ones who have been engaged in gang violence, of course, that's a different story. Those are violent criminals, and they belong in prison.
Yeah, and we've seen in Holland, when you do this, where they've medicalized the problem of drug addiction, that crime goes down when you do this because you no longer have expensive drugs that people have to kill each other to get.
You also have the situation where people who are addicts and don't want to be addicts can go to a doctor and say, help me. Today you go to a doctor and the doctor has to turn you away because if he helps you, he's breaking the law. And he could go to prison, and he doesn't want to do that, of course.
Absolutely.